Now, the universe works in weird ways, doesn't it, Rob?
It does.
And a couple of weeks ago, I've got a thing on my phone called the Facebook, and I was looking on the Facebook, and there was an article popped up about a chap called Ken James, who was, of course, is a very famous Australian entertainment legend. And I thought to myself, I wonder if Ken would be up for a chat. Well, I'm going to ask a question of our caller. Do you think Ken James would be up for a chat?
He certainly would.
Sure, don't do that to me. Thinking we've pressed the wrong button. Hello, Ken. You've got Neil here. You've already spoken to Rob.
Good morning.
Good morning again, Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. And
my pleasure. What a beautiful day in Geelong.
Well, it is, and that's the thing that makes me more happy, that we have lots of guests that have been in the entertainment music industry for a long period of time, but it's a rare event that we speak to one who's about 5Ks from where we are. So
we probably should have invited you in, shouldn't we?
It's a lovely part of the world.
Yeah, that's very good. So just before we get on to the past, the present, the Geelong connection, how did that come about?
Well, I met my partner 25 years ago at a Royal Children's Hospital fundraiser at the Grand Hyatt, or Park Hyatt, I should say, at Black Tie Fair, and we just clicked, and we've been together ever since.
And she's a Geelong girl?
Geelong. She's a Geelong girl, yes.
Well, that's good. We are the winners out of that little rendezvous.
I think I'm the winner.
Yeah, I was going to say Ken might have been the winner.
Rosemary has 2 beautiful children, and she has 6 beautiful grandchildren, and I'm their pa. I've been in their life all their life. And I have 2 children as well, 2 beautiful children, and I have 4 grandchildren. So we have 10 between us. We're very busy.
And the problem with sneaking down to Geelong to get away, I suppose if you're in Melbourne, people would still recognise you at a coffee shop. But I guess it wouldn't be much different at the Highton Shopping Centre when you go down there for a drink.
Oh, yeah, we went shopping yesterday in the city, and two women spoke to me. Like, Rosemary, do you pick people up everywhere you go? They know me. I was in their living room all their life.
Yeah. I'm still coming to terms with the fact that Mark Hammond has got grandchildren, so just let me have a moment on that if you wouldn't mind.
I turned 77 this year. In November, I turned 77.
Well, let's now go all the way back in the journey, because it fascinates me how people get involved in the entertainment industry. Did you have a real passion to do it as a youngster, or did someone notice your particularly good-looking head and say, "Come with me, son, I'm going to make you famous"?
Well, it's an interesting story. I was born in Sydney, at a place called Chippendale. In those days, it was quite a blue-collar working suburb, but now it's very trendy, I believe.
It's turned into a male strip place, isn't it? Or is there different Chippendales?
Yeah, everyone says that. Now, Chippendale's next to Redfern. And I used to play in Everleigh Street, which is a bit of a rough old street as a kid. But consequently, when I was 12, my mother and father lived next door to a woman she was a single mum. Her name was Edna Spinks. Isn't that a great name?
Oh, yes.
Edna Spinks. And she had a daughter called Karen. And Karen was 3 at the time. And Karen was doing tap dancing, ballet, gymnastics, whatever it was. I think Edna lived vicariously through Karen. And consequently, Edna saw this ad in the paper saying, child models required for this new thing called television. So she said to my mum, I'm going to take Karen down to the agency and try and get her to be a model. So she said, can I take Kenny with me? So off we went, and I walked into this door of an agency called International Casting Service, run by a lovely lady called Gloria Payton. And Gloria took one look at me and said, I want photographs of you on my desk by the end of the week. And poor old Karen didn't get a look in. I don't know what Karen's doing with herself now, but I went on to, I did TV commercials, a bit of modelling, and then I started, I was still at school, of course, and I did an ABC play, a TV play, and I was talking to Helen Morse, who was in the show as well, gorgeous Helen, who was in Caddy. Remember that movie Caddy? She played Caddy.
Yes.
A gorgeous actress. And I said to Helen, I don't know how to be an actor. How do I learn to be an actor? I don't know what I'm doing. And she said, well, you could go to NIDA. And NIDA, of course, is the Dramatic Academy in Sydney. And I said, well, my mum and dad aren't wealthy. I couldn't go to university. And she said, well, you could get maybe a scholarship like I did. So I applied for a scholarship to NIDA. Now, bear in mind, we'd shot the pilot to Skippy. This is when I was 16. And they hadn't made their mind up whether they're going to go ahead with the series. So they were procrastinating, and I was in limbo. Where do I go? Whatever happened. They offered me a scholarship to NIDA. I couldn't believe it. I was 16 years old, which is unheard of. So I had the opportunity to go to NIDA or just sit around and wait for Channel 9 to decide whether they're going to go ahead with Skippy. So my agent said, you better take the offer on the table. So I went to NIDA, And I was there for 4 days. And the call came through from Channel 9 saying we'd like to offer Ken James the role of Mark Hammond in Skippy. And I left NIDA and did Skippy.
So that's genuine on-the-job training from that point on.
Well, exactly right. You see, I learned on the job. I was working with wonderful actors and working with wonderful crewmen. People on the crew taught me how about camera angles and lighting and various forms of technique. But of course, I'm working with great actors all through the 3.5 years of Skippy. And then when Skippy finished, the production company, Forwarder Productions, said, we're doing a new series called Barrier Reef up on Hayman Island, and you're in it. I said, I'm in it. They said, yes, we're casting you in Barrier Reef. If you're playing a scuba diver, you'll be spending a year on Hayman Island, which I did.
Sounds tough.
Birthday there.
The working with children and animals is something we're not supposed to do. You got first hand, and I don't know, it might have been like Babe, where apparently 30-odd pigs were used in the movie. Skippy, tell us a little bit about what actually went on behind the scenes with this incredibly famous kangaroo.
Well, you see, every star has its stand-ins. So there were 9. There were 9 kangaroos. One particular kangaroo we called Jojo was the actual Skippy because she looked very pretty on camera. She's very photogenic. But all the other kangaroos had their own particular skills. And with smoke and mirrors, which is what television is, it made the kangaroo look phenomenal. Could do anything.
So one of the kangaroos could fly a helicopter, another one could drive a car.
Oh, all sorts of things.
But the reality, if you can, it's hard enough in what you've described as the starting off of your acting career, but to actually work or being filmed with a kangaroo, what layer of difficulty did that add on to what you were already going through?
Well, we had 2 film units. We had a first unit and a second unit. The first unit dealt with the actors, the humans, and the second unit did all the animal shots. And it was fun because the second unit had great catering, so it was great fun to be up.
Kangaroo food and
the sort of camera going left to right, or so it's a kangaroo going left to right or right to left, and picking up this and picking up that, and all the animal shots. And then they in the editing room, they'd make it come together, and it was magic.
Yeah, well, it certainly was.
92 episodes and a feature film we did.
I reckon if you looked at them now, you'd think, oh, geez, some of that's a bit shoddy. But back in the 60s when we were watching it, back at home on the little country television, it was extraordinary entertainment. We were completely glued to the television. It was amazing.
And it made Australia, it was on film, you see. It wasn't on videotape. It was on film. And the camera work was beautiful. And the lighting was fantastic. And the storylines were also wholesome. The goodies always won, the baddies always lost. And everyone sort of, the last shot was the family sitting around having a good chuckle and Skippy going.
Ken, everyone at your stage would need role models and mentors, and I suppose the serious man heading up the show, Ed Devereaux, was he someone who spent a lot of time helping you with your craft?
Well, you've got to understand, working on a TV series or a film, you start work at 5 o'clock in the morning and you finish when the sun goes down. Or if you've got a night shoot, you work all the way through. So I spent more time, I think, with my TV family than I did with my own family. I'd come home on a Friday night or Saturday night exhausted and sleep all day Sunday and get ready for Monday. So I spent a lot of time with my TV family. And, of course, you become very close. Tony Bonner, who played the helicopter pilot, he's 81 now, and he lives in Sydney. We talk regularly on the phone. He's still a mate of mine. I haven't seen Gary Pankhurst for many, many years. Gary played Sonny, of course. Lisa Goddard lives in London. He played Clancy. And sadly, we lost Ed. Ed passed away. He smoked a lot. He was quite a heavy smoker, and sadly, he died of cancer.
The other side of you touched on the catering. You developed a love for food and cooking. Did that start early in your life?
My passion is cooking, yeah. I worked on Good Morning Australia with Bert Newton for 10 years.
Well, we've just received a text from one of our listeners. Ken's best gig, in my opinion, was the cooking segments on Bert Newton's morning show. Fantastic television.
Well, that came about by accident as well. Many years ago, my phone rang about 7 o'clock in the morning at home, and it was one of the producers from Channel 10 on Good Morning Australia saying, sorry to ring you so early, Ken, but one of the guys who is supposed to do a gig on the show this morning missed their plane. We know you cook. Can you come in and do a spot? I said, what, now? So I jumped out of bed, got to Channel 10, did the cooking segment, and it worked. We clicked. We had chemistry. And then Leanne Mercer, who was then the producer of Good Morning Australia, tapped me on the shoulder as I was taking my makeup off, and she said, "Bert would like you to be a regular on the show." And I lasted 10 years.
And you don't say no to Bert, I suspect.
Well, yeah, Bert was you've got to understand, when Bert was working with Graham Kennedy, Graham was a top banana and Bert was second banana. And when he was working with Don Lane, same deal. Don was top banana and Bert was second. And then all of a sudden Bert became top banana and you were second. And we worked like a dream. We just had chemistry.
Yeah, it certainly was good stuff as well. The acting, though, when you got through Skippy, did you really have a passion for the acting, or were you still in a little bit of a bubble with the fame of the television?
I was very lucky because my mum and dad, as I said, they were blue-collar workers and down to earth and no mucking about. And my dad would say, "Jump," and I'd say, "How high, sir?" I was one of those kids who would do what he was told. And being on a film set, I was always on time, always punctual, always had my lines down, and I was reliable. And that's one of the things like, for example, a director will only accept one excuse if you're late. That's if you're dead. If you've died, they accept that.
Yeah,
no other excuse. And I've seen actors try and explain to a director why they're late, and they don't want to hear about it. They're wasting time. It's a business. So you get on with the business. And I was regarded as always being reliable and delivering a performance.
The actual technique of the acting, though, did you really get into that and have a passion to do maybe some more serious stuff?
Sponge. No, I was like a sponge. I did a lot of plays. I worked for the Melbourne Theatre Company, and I toured Australia and overseas with plays. But more importantly, as you do each show, you pick something up from it. And like I was a sponge. I was young, and I was learning all the way and watching other actors, their technique, and asking them questions. See, I was lucky when I was working for Crawford Productions. When Mr. Crawford, he was like a mentor. He sat me down many years ago and said, "Ken, I'd like to teach you the success or the secret to success in life." And it was like a moment. I thought, I'm going to hear from the great Hector Crawford. He said, "Surround yourself with good people." Simple as that.
Yep.
Surround yourself with good people. My dad, being a bit of a knockabout, would say, "Don't fall into mugs." That's what he'd say. But being more articulate...
It's the same message, though, isn't it?
Surround yourself with good people.
Yeah. And I guess part of... you hear of actors being, stereotyped or whatever, and here we are 60 years later and we remember you as Mark in Skippy. But
yeah.
you then went through the Great Barrier Reef thing, which obviously you were a grown-up at that stage, and then not long after that you went into a show that could be best described as a bit naughty.
Well, it was. Well, see, Number 96 was being produced in Sydney by Cash Harmon Productions, and I did a show for them called The Group, which won a Logie. That's another story. And I did, the people who were at Crawford said to Mr. Crawford, "You've got to do a show like Number 96. They're making so much money." And he said, "I don't do shows like that, Sex and Sin." And they said, "No, Mr. Crawford, So they've convinced Hector to do The Box. And they were having a lot of trouble trying to cast one particular character called Tony Wilde. Now, for those of you who don't know what The Box was a TV series about a channel called Channel 12, UCV Channel 12, a fictitious channel, and the lives and the loves of the people involved in the channel. And there was an actor called Tony Wilde who was in the major show called Manhunt. And his character was Detective Senior Sergeant Tony Blake. Now, you've got to understand, this is an actor playing an actor playing an actor.
Yeah, yes, okay, yeah, I'm with you so far.
Very hard to cast. And they were looking everywhere, and they flew me down from Sydney with about 6 other actors on the same plane, reading the same script.
Awkward.
To audition. And I did my screen test, and Loretta Healy, who was then the casting director of Crawford, said, "Oh my God, I found him at last." She came screaming out of the studio, grabbed Ian, the 2 of the directors from Crawford, and Ian Crawford and Ian Jones, and said, look at this, we've got him, we've found him at last. They looked at the screen test and they offered me the role on the spot. And I said, "I can't accept the role because I'm living in Sydney. I've got to go back and talk to my agent." They said, "No, we really want you to, you can live in Melbourne." So they offered me the role, and I did the show for 4.5 years.
And did that mean then a more permanent addition down in Victoria rather than New South Wales?
13 weeks I was commuting. I was going back to Melbourne on the weekends and working in Melbourne during the week. And after 13 weeks, Mr. Crawford said, "Why do you consider living in Melbourne?" So they shifted me down, and they found me a lovely apartment in Hawthorne, in Auburn Grove. Hawthorne East was my first place I stayed in Melbourne, and I rented that apartment for about a year, and then I bought a house in Surrey Hills, and that was the best thing I've ever done.
Ken, just on that, for us watching the show, we were giggling, smirking behind hands and not wanting Mum to see it while we were watching it, all that sort of stuff. But for you being actors, knowing that you were breaking new ground, what was it like behind the scenes in that?
Well, it's a job. I mean, you look at the script and you do what you're required to do. I mean, I had to drop my gear a fair bit and be in bed, do bedroom scenes, but you're surrounded by about 20 or 30 people. They're all looking at you. There's no chance for,
This is taking your acting family to a whole new level.
Well, when I did the Rocky Horror Show, you're running around backstage with half your gear off. I mean, I played Brad in the Rocky Horror Show. I had to wear stockings and garter belts and all sorts of stuff. You're an actor. You're required to play the part.
And as a tribute to you today, Ken, Rob is in fact wearing fishnets. He's dropped his Dax when he got in here today as a tribute.
Bravo.
I had to do a bit of Dr. Frankenfurter at some stage in my amateur theatre life. Ken, it's quite a liberating feeling, isn't it?
Well, it's a bit of fun. I mean, when we rehearsed in Townsville. Of all places, we opened in Townsville. And Russell Morris was in the show, and he played Riff Raff. And he and I became really firm mates. We still to this day, we're great mates. And Russell was playing Riff Raff. And the director said, now I want you boys to go and get a pair of high heel shoes. So we're in Townsville, and we walked into this lady's shoe shop, and Russell was going, oh, they're nice. Excuse me, lady, we're here to buy a couple of pairs of shoes. She said, I understand.
Now, you know how I said at the start how the universe works in really weird ways? I randomly selected songs today. Well, semi-randomly. They're all Bob Dylan songs. Guess who the next singer's going to be directly after your interview?
Tell me.
A chap called Russell Morris.
Oh, you're kidding.
How bizarre is that?
The Russell Morris.
The Russell Morris.
The real thing.
Friend of the show.
Taken from the Real Things Symphonic Orchestra event.
What a small world. I call him Rusty. We're good mates. Matter of fact, we're going up to Surfers Paradise for New Year's, and we'll be catching up with Russell for New Year's Day Eve.
Oh, he'll be a man of leisure by then. He'll have his feet up, being a pensioner by then.
He's got the best voice. I would stand, when we were doing the show, I would stand in the wings and watch him sing. And he got a voice. And we had Maria Mercedes and Glenn Shorrock. It was a pretty good cast.
Yeah, when I hear Rachel's Coming Home, I still get goosebumps. Ken, I just really love his voice. Magnificent.
Particularly the version with the symphonic orchestra that he did a couple of years ago, which is extraordinary.
Brilliant. Yeah, he did a fantastic job.
Now, we mentioned earlier about working with kids and animals and stuff. There are a couple of kids you worked with on a show called Skyways called Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan, as I recall.
Yeah, they played brother and sister. And because I knew Jason because his father and Terry and I used to play tennis. We used to play every Sunday. We'd play tennis, and Jason was our ball boy. And Kylie and Jason played brother and sister in Skyways, yeah.
And then they got married in another TV show. There's something weird about that, isn't there?
I think so.
But that's the thing with and was Skyways Crawford's as well?
Sorry?
Was Skyways done by Crawford's?
Yes.
Yeah.
I played an air traffic controller. I had no idea what I was talking about. Romeo, Tango, Juliet on your Q&R. What am I saying? What is this language? But I played the character, and I think I played it pretty well. Simon Young was a fun character to play. He had a slight Oedipus complex. He lived with his mum and didn't really have much of a relationship outside of his work and his mother. And I thought I played the character the way it was written. Oh,
and playing characters that got no idea what they're talking about. We've made a radio program out of it, Ken. It's something of an expertise of ours. But I was going to say, with Crawford's, you go back through some of the annals of Crawford's, and you go back as far as 64 when Homicide kicked off. There's been some pretty famous people got their start with Crawford's. It's just an institution, isn't it?
Well, I was very sad to see Gerard Kennedy passed away long ago, and I'd worked with Jerry in a couple of episodes of Division 4 and, of course, Skyways, and look, I got a bit teary the other day. I was watching YouTube, and I was watching a show called Australian Actors Who've Recently Passed, and I knew most of them. I'd work with them.
Yeah, there are a few at the moment, isn't there?
A lot of Paul Caro, who I work with in the box, recently passed away. And friends of mine, over the years, George Malaby's gone, Lois Ramsey is no longer with us, and people I'd intimately, we know each other. Like, the box cast was so tight, we'd go away for weekends. We'd work all week, then we'd go away to a houseboat on the Eildon Weir for the weekend. We just enjoyed each other's company so much.
And it comes back to that whole thing, if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never do a day's work in your life.
That's exactly right. And it's why you've got to enjoy what you do. Don't do a job because it pays you money. Do it because you enjoy it.
Ken, I know you're in Geelong because of your lovely partner, but we love this place and sometimes take it for granted. What's caught you about our lovely city?
Apart from high-quality community radio, of course.
Well, high-quality community radio, absolutely. But the view over the bay is just divine. Corio, the You Yangs, Barwon River is just gorgeous. It's up here. It is the view of Geelong. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is a lovely place.
Right. Well, I live in Melbourne. I have an apartment near the beach, and I like the ocean. I like the water.
Now, you've been down here for a while. Have you become a devotee of our Geelong Cats, or have you brought a Sydney love with you?
No, I'm a Hawthorn supporter, but Geelong's my second team, I must be honest with you. HBA Stadium is fabulous. But many years ago, when I first came to Melbourne, Ron Barassi was the coach of North. And he said to me, come down and meet the boys at Arden Street. We'd like you to follow the team. So as a guest, I went down there, and the first thing I saw was a fellow head-butting the locker. Why? This is crazy. So I left there. About 2 weeks later, I meet Lee Matthews at a social function. Same deal. Come down to Glenferrie, meet the boys. I walk in, I meet Peter Knights. And he shook my hand and he said, welcome home. I went, oh, you got me. So now one eye brown, one eye gold. Brown and gold. But I must say Geelong is my second team.
Well, apart from the fact I'm disturbed about the concept of a second team, we should let you go. And I let you go with thanks and gratitude, but an absolute desire that you have a very miserable afternoon this afternoon, given that I'm off to the MCG shortly to see my beloved Lions run around against your lot. From the long room, if you don't mind.
It'll be a cracking game, won't it?
Should be, and I hope the weather stays reasonable.
It is forecast to do that, so it should be okay.
Before we let you go, though, we've got Mary Ann who's learning how to do radio, and she's just completely blown us out of the water with her weather report. When we told her who was coming on, she told us about a TV show I must confess I didn't know about, but she, I think, might want to ask a question about that.
Go ahead.
Well, I think when I was growing up, Fly Away Home, I seen you come up on the credits, so was that something that you're involved with?
What, Joe? Sorry, dear, what?
Fly Away Home?
Fly Away Home? I can't recall that one.
Oh, it's got you listed.
The only flying show I did was Skyways.
Yeah.
And maybe Youngbloods, it's got you listed. Maybe your IMD program might be a little bit out of date. But
well, you can Google me and see what I've done in the past. Can I say, I did Sam Newman's podcast the other day, and he did a lot of research, and he knew more about my career than I did.
I remember opening the batting with one well-known musician, wasn't Russell, but someone else you may have met, and I asked him a question. He goes, No, I wasn't there that day, mate. And I played the song back to him. He said, yeah, actually, I was. Yeah.
See, my career goes like 60 years, and I've done quite a lot of work over the years, plays and radio, television, all sorts of things. And I do tend to forget now and again.
That's all right. We all do that. Hey, Ken, given that you are local, at some stage when you've got a Saturday morning and you've got nothing to do, come in and say good day.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you.
It's been great fun having a chat, and I'm sure you've got more stories to tell.
Can I say, I've been very lucky. I went to a lunch the other day called the Marquee Club, and Gary Mack was interviewing me, and we talked. There were so many stories I didn't tell. Didn't have enough time.
Yeah, well, I reckon we put it in the diary for later in the year. We'll get you to come in and talk into one of those things over there rather than a telephone, and we can shake your hand.
Well, I'm very fortunate to have met so many wonderful people, and that's one of the great things about show business. The great people you get to work with and meet, they just nourish your life.
Well, we feel very much the same having had that opportunity to chat to you today. Ken, thanks for everything you've done for us over the journey in terms of entertainment. We look forward to keeping in touch.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
All the best.
There he is, Ken James, Australian entertainment icon, I would suggest is a good way to describe him. What do you reckon, Mary?
Oh, absolutely delightful.